All right, well, we're here for our next episode of the 4 H's, and we're obviously here in the church today. So we usually do this outside, but today we're doing it in the actual sanctuary. We'll be outside a bit as well, though, as we work our way through it. But it's my privilege today to get to meet Sue St. Christopher.
Yes.
And I understand that you were like the former Tanya of the church.
Yes. Well, Tanya's she's bigger than Sue was.
Oh, okay. And we've got you seated there by the piano, which is like sort of a comfort zone for you.
Absolutely.
You play, and
Yeah.
so probably a number of people out there know that, but
Yes.
that's news for me. So I
Yeah.
look forward to hopefully someday hearing you help lead us in
Look
worship.
forward to being back here too.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
So we're doing the 4 H's. So first H, if you are ready to share with us just a little bit of your history, where you come from, how you ended up here.
Okay. So I'm originally from Victoria, and growing up years was in Calgary, back and forth to Victoria throughout the holidays with Mom and Dad and family back here. And then Mom and Dad moved back here, and I thought, what do I do? Stay in Calgary. So I stayed in Calgary for a year and went to school at SAIT for architectural drafting and whatnot. And I thought, I miss Mom and Dad. And that was at 18. So I moved back to Victoria, and they were living at Shawnigan Lake, and I lived back and forth to Victoria, Shawnigan Lake.
Yeah.
So while at Victoria, I met my kid's dad, and we married and had 4 kids.
Oh,
3
still
girls.
in Victoria?
No, 3 girls and a boy. My eldest daughter she works at the Beaver Creek Lumber here in town as one of the accountants upstairs.
Okay.
And the next daughter is Melanie, and she lives in Drumheller, and she's a daycare operator / cake decorator extraordinaire.
Wow.
With her husband and daughter. And my next daughter lives in town here with her husband Eric, and they have a set of twin boys and a daughter, and they're property managers in town and very huge fitness buffs. And all the family, they do all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And then my son is in Victoria still.
Okay.
He actually lived here and then went down as he decided what trade he'd like to be in, and so he's a carpenter.
Good.
In Victoria, and has been there for 12 years now. I guess it's all hard to believe.
Oh, it is.
But yeah, he's doing. They're all doing really well, and so praise the Lord. My eldest isn't a Christian, but so we're working on that. But so I back and forth to Calgary, Victoria, met and married the kid's dad, and he was a journeyman painter, so working at the DND, or Department of Defense in Victoria, on ships. And he got an opportunity to work at the pulp mill as a painter.
Yeah.
So he went for his 6-month, whatever they do for 6 months, and we stayed in Victoria while he did his thing, and then he was hired full-time, so the company moved us up.
Yeah.
And we bought a house, and life took over, and we sadly separated. And so the kids spent half-time and half-time with both of us, but we worked it out. And when they say kids are resilient, to a point they are, but they suffered, which is sad. But anyway, their dad passed away 2 years ago from cancer, so that was a big shock to everybody.
Yeah.
So we have been here since 87.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've seen a lot of changes.
Oh yes, yeah. And how we came here was one of the schools that I put the kids in is elementary. Pam Mann had her daughter there, so she sidled up to me and said, "You need to come to church. We need to have tea." In her way, so we did.
I'm getting the sense that Pam has done that quite a bit.
Absolutely.
For a lot of people.
That's a calling, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So we did, and she's been my longest friend since here, and then Sandy right after.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
yeah, Sandy and I have got so much in common. We've been told prior times that we even look alike. You must be sisters, and I say, yes, we are. She said, shh, don't lie. So,
I do see that you could pass for that. You could pass for sisters, yeah.
Well, when I say she's my sister, it's totally complimentary and not a lie.
Yeah.
Anyway,
good.
So yeah, and being at Aerosmith since then, and I had a little bit of time apart away from here when my kid's dad and I split up there for a while. It was rough.
Yeah.
And then came back and got on the worship team, and has been on the worship team since.
Yeah.
And got hired. Well, when Pastor Tim was leaving, I volunteered in the office at that time, and just after they left, and so I think at least 13, maybe 14 years in the office.
Wow.
When the last 5 or 6, maybe, where I was on salary.
Yeah.
So, and then things happened. Again, life took over, and my father was a severe diabetic, and he passed away 6 years ago. And it was about at that time that, well, emotionally, it was not good for me to be in the office. So, determinations were made, and I left the office and kind of hunkered around with the family while Dad was going through his thing. And so I've been volunteering since then to a few things in town. I get called occasionally to sing for, I don't know if I should say clients, guests at hospice. I'm trying to think of the name.
Yeah.
It's gone. So to sing for them. So that's what I do there. And I help certainly my neighbors, new neighbors, whatever, with some of the things that they can't handle around the park, the mobile home park that we're at. And I care for Archie, that's the senior that I look after.
Yeah.
So, and since COVID, well, just do your best, just like everybody else. So,
right. Yeah. Good. Well, that's a good bit of history. Brings us right up to the current.
Right.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so second segment is heroes. So who are some of the people who've had significant influence in your life?
When you said the heroes, the first person I thought of was Jake Wiebe.
Okay.
Because I knew Sandy from early on. Jake and his, I'm trying to think of a good word that would describe it. He was a champion for me. And I'm glad I have this because I might just use it. There's been many times that there's been a lot of loss, and both Jake and Sandy have been there. Jake, in his way, was just my big brother, and so when we lost him, it was like losing a part of you. But Sandy, of course, and Sandy still is my hero. Not an extension of Jake, but just because of her, the way she is, and the fact that we have this sister relationship. My son, Brian, would also be, I would consider a hero. When we were going through some tough times with separation and whatnot, he chose to stay with me while his sisters decided to go with their dad.
Yeah.
And he was the uplifter of my spirits.
Wow.
And he's a Christian, and so we still did church and did all that kind of thing. And he still is. He comes up here and helps me out around the new place, and he sends encouraging words and jokes and things throughout the week, so I can always rely on him for that. But he lifted me when I should have been the one that lifted him. But so he's a big one.
That's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's probably many, many others, but those are the three people that I would consider the most.
Well, those are some big heroes, and, and so,
absolutely.
So close to you in life. That makes it really profound.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, so Sue, this is the more intimate one. So some of the heartaches in life, and I think you've already started to touch on them, but if you, whatever you're comfortable sharing with, of course,
sure.
And because we so often learn so much in the midst of those heartaches, and God shows up in powerful ways.
Absolutely.
So what you're willing to share in terms of heartaches?
I think that because God gives us these things to struggle through, in the midst of all of the loss, I would say loss has been really the most of people. Loss of people, not loss of circumstances as much as loss of people, because circumstances can turn around and buoy you up again. But when it comes to loss of people that weren't Christians, like my folks, that's a tough one. And it's only been a few years since they were gone, so the loss of a marriage, betrayal, lies been told, loss of things as well that we typically lift up or bring around ourselves, and to lose things that you put your heart and soul into, like homes.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, and the kids going half to their dad and half to me, and me wondering how they are, because you're a woman, mother. I won't say that I lost my job here, but it was part of my identity as well.
Yeah.
So leaving at the time I did, because of Dad and because of emotional stuff with that, and working here was really, really hard.
Yeah.
And I felt betrayed as well.
Yeah.
I don't like to say that. I felt betrayed by the church, but I'm sorry to say that, but I did feel it at the time.
Yeah. Well, our feelings are legitimate.
Right.
They're not always based on absolute facts, but they're based on what we feel.
That's right.
And they're still very real, of course.
Right. And it wasn't that long ago, probably the last year or maybe two, that I had appointments with the pastor. And Sandy, of course, was there, and we went through everything that happened.
Yeah.
And reconciled.
Good.
Absolutely. I felt that the time was necessary to get this done, rather than living as I was.
Yeah.
Well,
that's very good to hear.
Yeah. And loss of health. Like, my health is not terrific. But I just go day by day, slowing down at age 62. I know my limits, or I think I know my limits.
Yeah.
And I try not to go beyond that. When I lived at the lake with in Archie's house, he is a hoarder.
Yeah.
And so there was maneuvering around things in order to take care of him and in order to take care of me as well. And there was a lot of things that I learned how to do as a person and as a woman. Because Archie was a good teacher. He had a stroke, and so he couldn't do these things anymore. But he taught me how to put an engine in a tractor. Actually, was one of my biggest accomplishments. Anyway, so when we moved, I kind of, yay, don't have to do that anymore. But it was a loss too. I learned so much out there and did so much. Yeah. That, okay, that was my younger self, and this is where I am now. Yeah. So mostly loss. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned loss, and I think a lot of us can identify with that, because life contains a fair bit of loss. And even the idea of the hoarding, that a lot of that is an attempt to sort of stave off the loss, right? We got to hold on to things.
Fill up that space somehow.
Yeah, but somehow there's something to be found in the midst of the loss too. And maybe it's more of our true self.
Exactly.
You are, a valid person because of who you are, not because of what you do.
Or what I have.
Or what you have.
That's right.
Yeah, so that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for sharing that and being vulnerable with that. Okay, Sue, our last H, we finish up with the positive one, the hopeful one, because it's hope.
Right.
So, some of the hopes that you're holding on to that keep you looking forward, looking upward, and how does that play out for you?
Okay. What I mentioned earlier about the losses of things, like, so you say people and jobs, etc. With jobs and things, activities, that can always change for the better. So Dad has kind of instilled that, either the work ethic and or doing your best and being satisfied with that. And so that's one thing I have a hope in, that because of the activities that I'm doing through COVID, it is the hope that we'll be able to come back here.
Yes, of course.
And worship as we were. And that is a prayer. So that's a hope I have, that God will promise that for us. And if not, then we'll meet each other up there. Yeah. So that is also it's a hope, but it's a keen wish. Yeah. That we get called home. Yeah. Soon.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. And hopes, let's see, other personal. I think I've kind of found my niche, is that the right word? Yeah. With working with seniors, volunteering with seniors. Yeah. Of course, COVID's put a kibosh on that for now, but that's a joy that I've had, and so I hope that will occur again. That'd be awesome. I can be useful.
There's sure a need for that.
Yeah, useful in his service for that. Yeah. With non-Christians as well as Christians. Yeah. So that as I get older, you reflect back on what you could have done or what you can do,
and I have more of the can-dos than I have could have.
That's a good thing.
So that, and to me, is, I hope, for just continued ways to serve him.
Yeah.
In whatever little way I can do it now through COVID. So, and so with Archie, there's an encouragement, because he's not a Christian, I don't believe, because he doesn't talk about personal stuff. But my hope is for him that I can be a tool for that as well.
Yeah.
And so we'll see how that goes.
Well, keep praying into that.
Yeah. So
Good.
those are my hopes.
Well, that is hopeful, and that just spawns a great deal of hope for me, in that I look forward to the potential of time when we can spend together here, and I can get to know you
Absolutely.
and so many others better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You bet. Thanks for sharing with us. It was really good.
Thank you. Yes.